If you've been following my house renovation journey, you know probably the biggest project of all was the backyard. It's been 3 months of working on it, and over $50,000 later, I wanted to break down the real cost to renovate this yard. So while the backyard isn't totally 100% done yet, it is mostly there, and I wanted to show you guys how much it cost to get to this point because I couldn't believe it. It was a lot more than I expected, and it was hard to find information on how much these different renovations would cost. So I hope this video is helpful for anyone else looking at buying a house that has a backyard that needs a lot of work. All right, so let's check it out. So here's a look at the backyard before. It is a really big backyard, so it has a ton of potential, but overall it wasn't really the aesthetic we were going for. It had a lot of plants that weren't native to the desert. I've already shown it in a video, but just a refresher in case you haven't seen what it looked like, this is what it looked like before, and we had big plans to just do a major overhaul of the whole thing. Here's a few more photos to show you what it looked like in different areas. After touring, I decided to kind of make my own rendering. So here's a before and here is an after of kind of what I was thinking of doing. So taking out a lot of these random plants, adding some lush ficus trees, making the concrete one uniform color, and then doing something to the overhang to make it look nicer, or just getting rid of it altogether. I estimated to achieve this, it would cost $30,000, and boy was I wrong. It was actually quite a bit more, you'll see. So I'm gonna go over the actual costs, everything we ended up doing, and I'll show you how it's turned out so far. It's not totally done. But before we get into that, a quick word from our sponsor of this video, Mercari. Mercari is a marketplace that brings sellers and buyers together through a flea market style app. Basically anything you can ship, you can sell on here. So it's awesome for cleaning out your closet and making some extra money off of clothes that you don't really wear anymore. And the sellers of this house actually left some random things here, so I've been able to list them on Mercari. So for example, these curtains were left by the sellers, and we actually just switched these out for different ones as we were redoing this room. So I'll show you guys how easy it is to list stuff. So let's do it. I like to use it for clothing mostly, but I just have found stuff around this house that I'm not gonna use. So we're gonna list the curtains. I'm gonna click sell now. So I only have one photo of the curtains up, which isn't really ideal. I should have taken one a little better of them up, but I also got some close-up shots to show the texture of these curtains. So I think it's good to have like a few photos of whatever you're selling. I've learned with clothing too to take a photo of the label so people know it's authentic. So I'm just gonna list the item, and you can see it actually already filled out the category for me based on what I already put in. So that's super helpful. I'm just gonna list these for $10 because they are used. And then I have smart pricing on, so in case it's not selling very well, it'll just gradually go down. And there we go, my listing is up, and it took me all of 60 seconds. So I'll link Mercari down below if you guys want to check it out. Okay, and now let's take a look at what we've done so far with this renovation. So like I said, it's not totally done yet, but here's a quick look at where we're at so far. And I'll include a lot more after shots at the end, but I wanted to go through the whole process. The first thing we had done was actually taking down that overhang. We decided to do this because it allowed for a much better mountain view from inside the house, and it made it a lot brighter. So here's how it looks now with the overhang taken down and the stucco repaired. It was $1,500 to get the overhang taken down and get everything hauled out and out of here, and then it was another $1,800 to repair the stucco. And I've learned stucco work across the board is kind of expensive. I don't know if that was like considered a good price for that, but that is what we paid. If you know more about stucco work, let me know. But it was like this, basically that whole area needed the stucco repaired and repainted. And then we also had this part of the roof repainted because it was really chipped. The next thing we decided to do was get rid of this concrete. And at first I thought we could just paint the concrete and that would solve the problem and save a lot of money, but upon further review, the concrete was just really messed up. I'm talking tripping hazards, cracks everywhere. It was just a mess. And I learned that actually painting it isn't a really good long-term fix because it chips and it will get into the pool. It was a lot of back and forth, but ultimately we decided to just redo the concrete. To get all the old concrete hauled out was $4,000 just to remove it, not add any new concrete. It was a lot of concrete, I will say. It's a pretty big yard. Then to get a more cohesive look, we had almost all the plants taken out. The backyard had just a modge podge of random plants. A lot of them not native to the desert, required a lot of water. Some of them were dying. And overall, I just didn't think they looked that good. It wasn't very cohesive. And there were a lot of plants to take out. So it was $5,000 total to take out all the plants. The biggest expense really was the cypress trees. There were 5 or 6 like 40-foot tall cypress trees that just make no sense for the desert. They're actually a fire hazard, we learned, and they just looked really out of place. So we had those taken down, all the old plants taken out, and really at that point we were like starting from scratch. We also had to get new pool equipment and a pool heater and get it taken out of this pit because it wasn't up to code. And so we had this little enclosure built. So it's all new pool equipment that's going to work super well. And this was $11,150. The pool light was also broken and the electrical around the pool is not up to code. So it was $2,000 to fix that. And then where that pit was, which was right over here actually, we had a French drain put in, and this was $5,000 to do, but it ensures no matter how hard it rains, the house will never get flooded. And lastly, for demo, it was $1,850 to get this brick hauled out of here. So at this point, we paid about $30,000 to make it look worse than ever, but we addressed all the safety things, and now the fun part, we can start adding stuff. So we added over 100 ficus trees, and these look really nice when they grow in. It adds more privacy so you don't see the other houses around you, and it also blocks noise, so it's especially good for a vacation rental. It just takes a couple years for them to fully grow in and look really good. So the trees themselves were $6,900. It was a lot of trees. And then the labor to have them all installed with an irrigation system was $5,888. It does take a couple years for them to really grow and thicken like this, but we already had some areas with some mature ficus trees, and I loved the lush look of them. Overall, I think this was money well spent, and I can't wait to see how they look when they're fully grown. I think it's gonna look really great. Okay, so next, obviously we had to get something over this dirt, so we had concrete poured, and this was the most expensive part of the backyard renovation by far. I was actually shocked by it. I didn't realize just how expensive it was, but watching it being poured, it is a lot of work and takes a lot of people. So we also had the pool coping redone because it was pretty old and kind of chipping all over the place. So to get this done was $19,800, but keep in mind it was a lot of concrete. It was the backyard, the entrance to the house, and the side yard, and a concrete pad for the hot tub. I believe it ended up being nearly 2,000 square feet of concrete, so it was a lot, and that's one of the reasons it was pretty expensive. Another reason it was pretty expensive is because we went with the turf in between. When you do this style, they have to build these sort of molds for it. It requires more materials and a lot more labor, so it ends up costing more, and that doesn't actually include the cost of the turf, which we got from someone we knew left over for half off. So I think it was like under $2,000 for the turf, and I learned that turf really varies in price. The higher quality ones are closer to like $5 a square foot, and this is a good quality one, especially when it's in the shade. It looks pretty realistic. Next, we added this little fire, or I should say big, it's a big fire pit. We added this fire pit area. This is kind of a standard among the vacation rentals out here. Almost all of them have these, so we knew that we should add one to be able to compete. While the concrete was out, that was the opportunity to add the gas line. So we did it. We thought might as well go for it. Adding the fire pit is a really small expense, like compared to everything else. So the fire pit they actually built and painted white so it matches the house. And this was $2,000 for them to build. A lot of materials, it's concrete and it has like lava rocks and all that stuff. So they do have to finish painting part of it, but it's just about done. And I think after looking at the cost of buying a fire pit, it made sense for them to just build one because it matched better anyway. And a lot of them were over $2,000 for the style that we wanted. And I really like that we went with the gas fire pit. It was worth it while the concrete was out to just run the gas line. It makes it super easy to turn on. You just have this little knob, so it's easy for renters to use and it will never run out of gas like propane would. The fire pit actually wasn't even the big expense. It was really all the turf over here. Adding the turf to this section was $4,340 for the actual turf itself and the labor of installing it. And then we added these concrete pads so that the chairs wouldn't damage the turf, and this was $2,330. So the total for this little section of the yard was about $9,000, not including the chairs. So it was a lot more than I expected for just a simple fire pit, but I do think this area turned out really nice. I think renters are gonna love it, and personally, I just love this spot where you can see the mountains and the pool. I'm pleased with this. And this is my favorite thing we added. It's an outdoor shower, and it actually has plumbing for hot and cold water. The plumbing to add the outdoor shower was $2,000, but the shower itself, the tile was $150 and the fixture was $300, and it's leaking. It's not a very good fixture. Would not recommend. Homery would not recommend. In the grand scheme of the whole yard, this was a pretty small expense, and I love it. I think it's so cool, and I like that it adds one more shower to the house. Most of the expense of the outdoor shower really is just the plumbing. I really figured since the house accommodates 6 people and there's only 2 bathrooms, it would be nice to have one more shower outside. It's really more meant for like after you're swimming or whatever to kind of wash off. And then over in this area, we haven't done a whole lot yet. We just put some decomposed granite down, and we have that all throughout the yard, just anywhere where there was dirt to make it look a little nicer. And the decomposed granite is not that expensive. It was $2,000 to cover the whole rest of the yard in this decomposed granite. It's just kind of a sandy color. You see this a lot in Palm Springs. So this is a lot less expensive than adding more turf or grass that would need irrigation to those areas. And when you add some little desert plants, it just looks like a nice little Zen garden. So we're probably just gonna plant a few little things here and make it like a Zen garden. And then right here is where the hot tub is gonna go. I already ordered one. It was $8,000. I don't even wanna count it and think about how much I've spent on the yard total, but we did end up going with an above ground hot tub because they're less expensive than an in-ground one. I looked into adding a hot tub to the pool, and the quotes I got were around $20,000, and I've learned it ends up being more than what you think it's gonna be. So an above ground one was only $8,000, and honestly, I don't think Airbnb renters are gonna care either way. And above ground hot tubs are always hot, so it's great for renters. So we already have the electrical installed, we're just waiting for the hot tub to get here. So this concrete pad was already a part of the price of all the concrete we already had done, and this area is not finished at all, so you guys will have to stay tuned for how it turns out. It's a little messy right now. And then we have already purchased some outdoor furniture, but we don't have it in its like final spots or anything like that, so I'm not going to include this in the cost for this video. But yeah, let's take a look at the grand total that we've spent so far. And now for the total cost of the backyard renovation. So far what I've calculated is $76,696. I feel sick. It's just so much to spend on a backyard, and I did not expect to spend nearly that much. I thought it would be around $30,000. A lot of it was dealing with the pool equipment and removing things. I am renovating this house with my sister though, so we're splitting that cost. And I do not make this video to brag. I hope it doesn't come across that way. I feel a little weird saying it because it's a lot of money, but if anything, I want this to be a warning. If you're looking to buy a house with a backyard that needs work, maybe don't, because it's expensive to renovate. Way more expensive than I thought. So like I said, it's not fully done. The ficus still has to grow in, and we haven't really like fully added furniture. It's in random spots right now, but it'll look a little better when we fill that out. I can't believe it. I really can't. Like, there's so much I would do differently knowing what I know. I could do a whole video on things I wish I knew before renovating, and maybe I will. I hope this video is helpful to you guys, or at least entertaining. I know it's kind of niche to be renovating a backyard, but hey, this could come in handy one day, this info, because I did not know this stuff, and I tried looking up the costs, and it's hard to get a good estimate for your area. It can change. Each contractor has different prices. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.